Alright, on today's lovely topic, the Salem Witch Trials, a very unfortunate part in history. Taking place in 1692 Massachusetts, people were really hooked on witchcraft, so much in fact that you could do just about anything out of society's considered normal and eventually be killed for it. And that sucked, because you couldn't do anything you wanted. And the fact that you couldn't do anything just sucked. Like, I think these people might have been secretly a cult of just anti-fun or something. Because these people, what they did during the 1 year gap was kind of horrific. People would kind of throw witchcraft around like it was it was thrown around so easily, yet it could also very easily destroy your life if you were accused. Like, people would find almost any reason to accuse you of witchcraft. Like, if you looked different, if you acted different, if, I don't know, your crops failed. Like, imagine if you were a modern day magician and you tried to show one of the citizens of Salem a magic trick. Like, you would probably be stoned, like, at the snap of their fingers. And it's just upsetting knowing that history was actually like this one time, and people genuinely just had to live through this and pretend everything was okay and pray they weren't accused of a witch one day, ruining their life. But they really devastated and dented their way into history, because from the 1 year gap, they kind of threw around witchcraft so much to the point where roughly more than 200 people were actually accused of witchcraft. Only 30 people, surprisingly, were found guilty, but 19 people were killed, and they just kind of glossed over this and pretended everything was okay afterwards. And it sucked. They just kind of pretended everything was okay, no matter what happened. The fact that they pretended like everything was okay just kind of horrifies me. Like, imagine if something like this modern day happened, you know, like, I mean, maybe something like this in the modern day might actually happen. They just kind of sweep falsely accusing people of ruining their life and killing them short under the rug. Like, people were out for blood during this time. So much could happen. Like, you know, you eat some bad food, you get sick out of the blue. Like, you were just healthy a day ago. You sure you're not being witched? Maybe hexed even? And it's sad to see what their mindset was like in the past. And it's kind of disappointing that society was like that one time. And society was also terrible in the ways of putting people down. Like, if you were born a girl, you basically were just a tool for more children. And you kind of had almost nothing for your name and just had to marry into a life and pray to God that He half respected you. Maybe you could live somewhat comfortably. That's not all. That's probably actually only the surface of the entire topic. Like, people were just accused over and over. Like, you could argue, you could have friends. Like, if you could take care of yourself, you'd probably be accused of witchcraft, like generating money out of your back pocket. Or maybe if you were poor, you would probably also get accused and just murdered. Like, it was so unjust. Like, maybe if you were old or ungodly young, like, someone was accused of witchcraft at 4 years old. Like, how? They barely know how to talk and read and write. Probably didn't even know how to read and write, considering the education was pretty strict back then. Like, or maybe if you were a healer, you know, one of those special healers for the town, you could be accused. Or if you had trouble giving birth, you know, you could be accused of witch from then, or maybe stubborn. Or if you were just an interesting person, even like if your milk expired in your fridge, you could be accused of that. Like, people did not care who or what you were. They would just kind of toss the label on anything. Like, even if you hated someone, if you didn't like someone, you could just scream that they were a witch, and they'd probably be gone within the next month. And people would abuse this too, especially in the story itself. One of the main girls was doing younger people things, just being stupid, running in the woods, and they got caught. So they pretended to be sick, but it wasn't really working, and they kind of got abused just for not wanting to get in trouble. So they drag it out even further and just start yelling at people and accusing them of being a witch, which sparked all of it, and even took it further. And since they had power, they pushed it even further and actually kind of doomed their town. And they just pretended like nothing happened afterwards. But yeah, that's the horrible story of the Salem Witch Trials. Some key factors is that you could be accused of being a witch for just about everything in the book. Especially, like, imagine if it was a modern day and people were transported somehow into the Salem Witch Trials. They'd probably be gone so fast. A lot of people modern day would probably get murdered easily. So people would find basically any other way to accuse them of witches. Females didn't have any rights. Like, if you were born a woman, you were already down a leg or two. They didn't like to have fun. You had to follow a very strict guideline of society, otherwise you would probably be murdered or accused of witchcraft. They were very discriminatory, you know, like, they kind of, it's almost like they pushed for it. Like, imagine if you were a girl in reading. You'd probably get murdered, or just very, very strange looks. So if you were young, if you were old, if you were poor, if you were rich and or financially independent, if you were born a woman, if you were just different than the rest of society, you know, if you were doing things you weren't supposed to, or if you could stand up for someone and probably be murdered for witchcraft. Yeah, so this was my very uncoordinated rant over how the Salem Witch Trials weren't great.